Paul Jones covers Mississippi State for 247, and Bulldogs 247 joins us on 365 Sports. Mississippi State after a couple of very impressive wins, and now they keep moving on. And Mike Leach, with what he's done there, and the quarterback putting up amazing numbers, record-breaking numbers as well. Paul, thanks for your time. Have they surprised you a little bit from where they are, who they've beaten, and how they've done it?
I would say the margin of victory maybe have caught me a little bit by surprise. But, this is a very veteran team. And when you look back at Leach's tenure, it usually takes him a couple of years to get that thing going. And, a lot of the guys that you're seeing make plays right now, they started as true freshmen almost out of necessity. That first year, a lot of guys transferred, got kicked off, had a COVID year. I think they ended the season with 43, 44 healthy players on scholarship. So, these guys have been through the grind for 3 years now, and, I think experience has a lot to do with how they're playing right now.
Paul, and part of it is you give Mike Leach 3 years with a quarterback, and they're all of a sudden going to be in some sort of Jedi mind meld where they kind of just know things. And Will Rogers he just seems so effortless and in control back there.
Agree, and I think that is relative to the run game that they've got this year. Leach likes to give his quarterbacks a lot of freedom. That includes checking out a pass plays, the run plays when he sees a drop eight or teams not loading up the box. Will's been very good at checking out of some of those plays this year. And, of course, going back to what I said initially, those running backs, Dylan Johnson, Jaquavius Marks, they're juniors now, and both of those guys started as freshmen. But it definitely starts with that quarterback and knowing the system like the back of his hand and knowing where to go with the ball. And same thing with the receivers. They know where to sit down in the zone. And, that drop eight was an interesting topic his first year and a half because a lot of the defenses showed that and initially held Mississippi State down on offense because of that. But now they've shown the ability to get teams out of that drop eight, mainly because they can run the football. And it's impossible in the SEC to drop eight and try to defend the run.
Paul, what's it like to cover Mike Leach on a somewhat daily basis?
It's interesting. It can be frustrating at times because I get the feeling that sometimes Leach would rather talk about anything than football. There's a lot of times where you want some football answers from him, and he'll go on a rant about something else that had nothing to do with your question. But it's still kind of surreal, to be honest with you, because we all grew up watching Mike Leach elsewhere and know of his past and know how funny he is and quirky he is, and to be, seeing him every day and having press conferences is still kind of surreal. But the guy has really fit in well in Starkville, to be honest. And I know a lot of people wondered about that fit, but regardless of there's so many false narratives about the air raid offense that it's offense that throws 50-yard bombs or it's a finesse offense, and Leach has a finesse program, but. He's more of a lunch pail guy, hard work, discipline. He's all about that. And, I think that fits Mississippi State's culture pretty good.
What was the story of Will Rogers? And I'm sorry, I don't know more about it, coming out of high school and how he got to Mississippi State and what he was expected to be?
It's kind of a funny story. I've known that family for a long time and grew up diehard Rebel fans. And Ole Miss didn't offer, but Joe Moorhead, when he was at Mississippi State, the head coach, he offered Will and wanted him right away. And, of course, Will was an early graduate, so he got here that January after his senior season of high school. And lo and behold, Mike Leach had offered him too. I think that was his only other Power 5 offer was from Washington State. He had Mississippi State and Washington State offers, so obviously Leach was familiar with Will Rogers when he took over the job here. But just, when he arrived, I told people that from a leadership standpoint, you won't find anyone better. He earns respect. The guys know who QB1 is, and he's a leader in that locker room. And he, he's that type of guy that makes people gravitate to him. He's steadily gotten, improved each year. The old cliche, stronger, faster, bigger, able to stretch the field more with a better arm. So, just very low key and humble guy too. I mean, he just comes to work every day, and he's probably his biggest critic, but obviously he's improved each year under Leach.
How are they feeling about the rest of the SEC West? Obviously, Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl is going to probably be another classic. Those two teams look really, really good. Alabama's Alabama, but they kind of have a shot here, don't they?
They do, but it is the SEC, and I think Mississippi State started the year in the preseason with the toughest schedule in the country, and they're about to come upon that tough schedule because I'm not sure there's another team in the country that has 3 top 10 teams left on their schedule. They still got obviously a road trip to Kentucky this weekend that won't be easy. Kentucky's number 22 in the country. Still have a home game against Auburn. And they play an FCS team, East Tennessee State, but they also have Alabama, Georgia, and Ole Miss. So it won't be easy sledding by any means, but yet, I mean, all their goals that they have for the year are still out in front of them.
Paul, I know that it's a bit of a question mark right now on whether Will Levis is going to play or not, but I guess keeping that in mind, what have you made so far of the Mississippi State defensive side of the football, and how does that, I guess, makeup or thought in your mind change, if at all, depending on who's playing quarterback for Kentucky?
Well, I think if Levi's is not able to go, I think it's a big advantage for Mississippi State, and obviously he won't be 100% even if he plays, from what I've heard. But, if Kentucky wants to run the ball, Mississippi State has a pretty good run defense. They've been playing a lot of guys, too, so that depth's starting to show. And it's allowing them to keep fresher legs on the field and get more pressure on the quarterback. On paper, I think it's a pretty good matchup for Mississippi State. Teams that have hurt them in the past are speedy quarterbacks that like to scramble or speed on the edges. And, I think Kentucky has one of the best running backs in the league with Chris Rodriguez, but I don't think speed's a big factor on Kentucky's side of the ball on offense.
With what we see now in college football with the transfer portal, and all of that, how has that affected Mississippi State one way or the other?
I think they've done well. I mean, they brought in more talent than they've lost. And, the majority of the guys that transferred out did so for the normal reason, more playing time. They were buried on the depth chart, wanted to start somewhere else. Aaron Brule, a 4-year linebacker, he transferred to Michigan State, and he was really the only guy that left that was a starter in the 2 deep. But, you look at who they brought in. Stephen Lasoya, offensive lineman from Middle Tennessee State, he's starting this year now. At left guard, Jackie Matthews has probably been their best safety transfer from West Virginia. They brought in Alabama transfer cornerback Marcus Banks. And the kicking game has a couple of transfers as well. So they really hit – I wouldn't say they hit the portal hard this past year, but they hit it in key spots, and it's starting to pay off.
Paul, we appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Bulldogs 247 covers Mississippi State. Great win that they've had, a couple of them now. And Mike Leach, we know what he did at Tech, what he did at Washington State, which was on and off, but still, this guy's put up a lot of wins over the years, and we know what he can do. There were times at Mississippi State when the offense probably underperformed, but what they're putting up now, the numbers of what they're doing, is very impressive. When we